How do you actually get out of survival mode? We hear it time and time again. People say you have to get out of survival mode. You have to get out of survival mode. That's the only way life will change. And while that's true, what does that really mean? There's no single blueprint, there's no single book you can read that will solve all of your problems. This is incredibly difficult and personal work that starts within that we all have to do. And something that I've experienced in my personal life, as well as seen countless times in my practice, is that there are so many people who find themselves in this position where they feel stuck. They feel stuck on this wheel. They feel stuck running this race. They feel stuck in a life that they may not have chosen or planned. And they feel like they can't stop. They can't rest. They can't change anything or find joy because everything is an emergency and everything needs all of them. And while it can feel like that, that's not true. It's just not. Because the reality is, survival mode is a learned state. It's not our natural way of being. I don't think there's anybody who would say they enjoy being in survival mode. At least I haven't found them. Our nervous systems don't like it. Our bodies don't like it. Our minds don't like it. So, how do we get out of survival mode? Well, I wanted to share a few tips that I hope will help you on your journey today. Kind of shift your narrative and move from surviving to thriving. First, acceptance. I know it can be really hard to accept when life doesn't look like what you planned, when things don't go the way you wanted them to go, or you wind up in a situation that you just never imagined you would wind up in. I get it. I really do. I've been there myself. And the longer you fight reality, the longer you stay stuck in survival mode because you can't address what you don't accept. You cannot change what you don't come to terms with. So you do have to invite in reality, as painful as it may be, as uncomfortable as it can feel, and as angry as it may make you. It is what it is. If you're going through something, it is what it is. If money don't look right, it is what it is. You cannot change what has happened. You can only change what will come. And that starts with acceptance. Secondly, you have to kind of get a sense of what urgency and true urgency is. Because when we're in survival mode, everything feels like an emergency. Everything feels like I have to do this now. Every slight inconvenience feels like a major problem. Every slight setback feels like a complete catastrophe. And that brings up a lot of anxiety because we never know when the next shoe may fall. We never know when the next thing may go wrong. It feels like any one thing can take you out when you're in survival mode. And I get it. It's very natural to feel that way when things feel like they're trying to take you out left and right. And ultimately, we do have to ask ourselves, is it truly urgent or are we just anxious about it? Because where's the threat, right? Some things are true, real material threats. A lot of things are perceived threats. So it can be natural to feel like you have to get ahead of everything. And I hate to break it to you. Well, I don't because I'm making this video. But the reality is you can't get ahead of everything. Some things are just going to happen. And you just have to respond. And you have to be comfortable showing up and responding. But that starts with first getting a sense of what's urgent and what's not, what's real and what's perceived, what's in front of you, and what are you just anxious about. And as you do that, you also have to expand your capacity because life is going to throw what it throws at you. I know life has thrown me more than a few curveballs, and I'm sure it's got a few more left for me, and that's okay. That's just how life goes. I imagine the same is true for you too. And ultimately, you have to stay engaged throughout that process because whether things are going well for you or whether they're going absolutely terribly, you have to stay engaged. You have to show up. You have to be present. And what that looks like on any given day may be different, right? So we do have to be honest about the how wide of a definition staying engaged really means, because one day that may be actively addressing something, the next day that may be acknowledging it and just letting it go and seeing what happens, but living life nonetheless. It changes. My point is, you have to stay engaged. We can't just drown ourselves out, because it's easy to just want to dissociate. Dissociate. That word always gets me. And kind of disconnect from reality. And sure, you do have to give yourself moments when you're just free and living, but ultimately, problems aren't going to solve themselves. Circumstances aren't going to change themselves. If there's something that is feeling like it's got you in a vice grip, it's not going to let you go just because you're looking somewhere else. So you got to stay engaged and build that capacity over time. One of the things that really helps kind of stay grounded within that process is having some form of structure or routine. Now, that's going to look different for everybody. For me, that looks like every morning I wake up and I make myself breakfast. Small breakfast, oatmeal, and usually eggs. That's how I start my day. And it's not even so much about the breakfast itself. Don't get me wrong, I love my oatmeal and eggs. But it's not just about the actual food, it's also about the routine of, hey, this is for me my trigger to start my day. This is what actually gets me going for the day. And that's a routine that helps me. Doesn't have to be your thing, but what I'm saying here is that structure and routine in the midst of chaos are one of the best ways you can ground yourself and come back to a space where you actually feel like you have agency over something. Because when we're in survival mode, one of the big things that you're going to see is you feel like you don't have control. This happened, that came up, that went that way, you lost this. All of these things feel like they're happening to you. And some of them are, not gonna lie. And at the end of the day, there's always something you can control or a different way you can show up and actually be engaged and an active agent in that story. Additionally, you gotta rest. Now, I know this one is really hard. This one's really hard because how do you rest when life is just giving you the good old 1 2? That's a valid question. And my question to that is, what happens if you don't rest? Because, sure, we may feel like we need to keep going at all times, otherwise, everything will fall apart. And the reality is, if you keep going no matter what, eventually everything will fall apart because burnout sets in. At some point, your body's just going to say no. At some point, you cannot power through whatever you're up against. So, you do have to find ways to incorporate rest and pour back into yourself and take care of yourself. Because one of the tricky things about being in survival mode is that your mind and your body oftentimes aren't on the same page. Your body might be telling you slow down, and your mind is telling you to speed up. And that disconnect is going to create tension, it's going to create confusion, confusion, it's going to create a lot of friction within you. And if you don't do something to try to reconcile that, it's only going to build. And at some point, it's going to overcome you. And then what are you going to do? Right? Nothing is going to get done if you fall out. And I've seen it happen. It's happened to me at points in my life where I've pushed to the point where my body gave out. So I'm not speaking from a place of not having experienced it myself. I've been there. You have to find ways to rest. Maybe that looks like sneaking in a nap where possible. Maybe that looks like turning off your phone today and, well, not to the whole day. Well, maybe if you can, but you get the point. Find a way to rest. Find a way to slow down where possible without just completely checking out, but give yourself a break. And along with that, you have to give yourself some grace, okay? Because here's the thing, being in survival mode feels like doing the impossible. You look around and life tells you this is as good as it's going to get. Life tells you this is all I'm going to give you. Life tells you keep going. whatever it tells you. So it feels like being asked to do the impossible when someone says, hey, you have to let go of survival mode. You have to change your narrative. You got to do all of these things, which again, where's the blueprint, right? And ultimately, you have to give yourself grace because it does feel like it's impossible. And I promise you it's not, but you can't put too much pressure on yourself to change everything all at once because you won't do it. That's not how we work. That's not how life works. You have to take it bit by bit, right? And again, be an active agent and control what you can, influence what you can, and let go of what in the moment you just cannot change. Stay present, but also pick your battles because you can't fight them all at once. And you also should fight a few of them. And with that, it's important to have support. Now, this is one of the things I see a lot of times, and I've also, again, had to work through this myself. People want to go at it alone. And sure, we can be self sufficient. I'm sure you are a very well functioning and self sufficient person. A lot of us can say that about ourselves. And I think to some degree we should say that about ourselves. And the thing is, at the end of the day, everybody needs support. Everybody needs something. Everybody needs someone in some capacity. And I'm not saying in a codependent way, but we need somebody or something to lean on because we are human. We're not Superman, Superwoman, super person. So it's important to pull in support where possible so you don't feel like you're doing all of this alone because that's only going to isolate you on that island of survival more and more. And eventually you'll look around and be like, man, I can't do this. There's nothing I can do. There's nowhere I can go. I'm on this island by myself. Promise you, there's somebody in your sphere who would love to be there for you if you would just let them. And ultimately, you do have to also choose wisely and make sure you can trust the people or the things or whatever that support actually looks like for you so that it is constructive and doesn't do more harm in the grand scheme of things. And ultimately, you have to trust yourself through this process. And I know that's really tricky when you're in a space where everything is moving 200 miles an hour and up feels like down, left feels like right, and you're not quite sure which way you're going, but you know you're going somewhere. I know that's a hard ask, and you have to trust yourself. You have to make decisions. You got to see them through. Not all of them will actually go the way you want them to go. Some of them will feel like they make the situation worse. That's the reality of doing this work. And if you keep doing the work, it's kind of a numbers game at some point. You'll make decisions that, as long as there's intention and real thought behind them. I'm not saying just do any and everything. Like, hey, I don't know how that's gonna work out, but it's your game. But at the end of the day, as long as there's intention and real effort, and you're really doing that work, you're gonna move yourself toward where you want to be. It might not be overnight. It might take some years. Who knows? The timeline might not be ideal, and ultimately the trajectory will be. So stay engaged, trust yourself, keep showing up, and get a little help along the way. I hope something I've said here resonates with you. And if it does, I actually have a couple resources for you because, again, I've been in the situation and I work with people who are in the situation every day. I have a free ebook. It's all about self trust. And I know you're probably like, self trust, survival mode. I promise you, like I said, you have to trust yourself in that process. In the ebook, it talks about how to identify where self doubt comes from and how to really ground yourself in an understanding and trust of yourself. So that way you can make decisions when you're afraid, when life isn't going your way, and all of those things. You can find that on my website if you so please. There's also a guided journal on my website, which hopefully will support you on this journey because you do have to let some of these emotions out. You got to get it out. You can't keep it all bottled in. So maybe that's your form of support. I don't know. But it's there. And there are reflective exercises that'll help you, again, reconnect with yourself, ground yourself in your capacity and understanding of why you're even doing what you're doing. So that way there's intention, there's clarity, and there's effort behind the work you're doing. Again, outside of that, I hope this video serves you well. Keep on with the keep on. You take care.